Welcome to the Founders Stories and Community Impact panel. We will begin shortly. Welcome to the Founders Stories and Community Impact panel. We will begin shortly. We are now ready to kick off the panel discussion, but first, let's meet the host. Leah Frazier is a 2-time Emmy Award-winning and 10-time Addy Award-winning entrepreneur and was recognized as one of Dallas's most successful women for 2015. She is a multi-licensed attorney turned marketing and communications guru who unapologetically left the practice of law to pursue her entrepreneurial ventures. Leah is the CEO, proud owner of Think3 Media, and the host of today's discussion. Please welcome Leah Frazier.
Welcome, everybody. Hope you guys have had an amazing start to your day. Welcome to this session for the 2021 Inclusive Innovation Summit put on by UTD. We have an amazing roundup of panelists for each and every one of you guys, and we're going to be talking today about founder stories and community impact within this inclusivity discussion. So without further ado, you guys, I am Leah Frazier, the CEO of Think3 Media. As you heard the introduction, we do creative marketing and communications for businesses and brands all over the United States. And so I'm so happy to moderate this panel of just amazing people within the community. And so without further ado, let's bring on our guest. Let's welcome them to the stage. Hello.
Howdy.
You guys look lovely. And so we're just going to kick this off with introductions. I let you guys know earlier on, I am the worst in introducing people, but I'm great at asking questions. So immediately to my right, we have Michelle Gruben. I'm going to let Michelle kick it off, followed by Anjie, Matt, and then Clio.
Thank you, Leah. So I'm Michelle Gruben. As it says on my badge, I'm the owner and founder of Grotto. I'm an e-commerce entrepreneur full-time. I'm also a graduate of the University of Texas at Dallas, where I attended from 2004 to 2006 and received a degree in gender studies. After a very brief time in grad school, I left to become a chef, and I did that professionally for 8 years. Went to culinary school and became a chef. In 2014, I left that career to found my business. Grotto is an online retail store. We cater to people practicing earth-based spirituality. We're on multiple channels. Anywhere you do online shopping, you can probably find us. And my role in the business as a solo entrepreneur is I do everything: the purchasing, the warehousing, the fulfilling, the marketing, the website, the accounting. And I'm very proud to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Anjie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Anjie Vichayanonda, and I am the CEO and founder of Leg Up Legal. We provide a mentoring platform that connects prospective law students to attorney mentors so they can learn more about the legal profession before they decide whether or not they want to go to law school. And I am also a practicing attorney. I do trademark and copyright law for Andrea Sager Law, PLLC. And I'm also a graduate of UT Dallas. I did not know I wanted to be a lawyer back then. So I had an advertising degree. I went to go work in advertising for a few years and then switched switched careers and became a lawyer. So after practicing for 6 years, I left and founded Legup Legal. And then I just recently started practicing again last year. So running Legup Legal full-time and practicing part-time. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Anjie. And she gave me permission to call her Anjie V because I just don't want to mess up her name. So you guys can hit her up as Anjie V in the comments if you have anything you want to add to the conversation. Moving on to the Matt Houston.
I don't know about thee, but I'm honored to be here. Thank you all for inviting me to this innovative summit that's much needed. UT Dallas, y'all have a special place in my heart. I did not attend UT Dallas, but I was an honorary comment when I attended SMU from 2002 and 2006, where I have lifelong friends who are members of your student body. I'm an educator, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an activist fighting for economic equity for all. And I'm honored to be on this panel to discuss my entrepreneurship journey, as I have created several businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I am currently principal of MLH Enterprises. It's a consultancy firm that focuses on education, leadership, and economic development consulting across the country. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
And I'm going to still call him the Matt Houston because he knows everybody. So you got to know anybody you put the in front of, you got to know Matt. And so we're going to move on to Clio.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of this with all of you. I am a game designer, writer, and cultural consultant. And most of my game design work focuses on tabletop role-playing games that are essentially kind of like collaborative storytelling. And then I also, I write LARPs, which some people might be familiar with. And if you're not, they're live action role playing games where you're embodying your characters. Yeah. Really fun. I really want to play a Star Trek LARP. I was just talking about that earlier today. And I also write interactive fiction, which is kind of like text-based games where you're choosing your path, and I write for Choice of Games. So those are like very long form interactive fiction titles. I also, on the consulting side, I consult on kind of educational software and games, making sure that products and events are more inclusive. And specifically, I kind of specialize in Asian and Asian American themes and settings, also queerness and gender identities, as well as disability and chronic illness. And those two worlds collide more often than one might think, but that's kind of the general gist of what I do.
Thank you so much, Clio. And one day I want to be as cool as you to be able, and Matt, apparently, to be able to get into the gaming world. I'm just the one that's like, can you send me the cliff notes, the cheat code, whatever? Just fast forward me to the end. I don't have time for all this. But really, really cool job that you have. I'm going to kick off this discussion, Anjie, to you, because just in, weaving in the theme of inclusivity and innovation, you founded Legup Legal. You obviously saw that there was a hole in the market where law students need to be connected to these legal mentors. And so tell me how that came about and how you see yourself pushing this inclusivity conversation along within your field.
Absolutely. So if anybody doesn't know, the legal profession has a huge problem with lacking diversity. We are one of the least diverse professions that are out there. So, till this very day, there's very, very small numbers of minorities and of women in leadership positions in large law firms and large legal employers. And it's something that we've, as a profession, has had to take a very, very close look at ourselves and figure out, why is this happening? And so for me, I was a first generation Asian American. My parents are from Thailand. I was born here in the United States, and I didn't have anyone in my family who was a lawyer. All of them were engineers or healthcare professionals. So I had no one to turn to when I started looking at law school. And I also graduated with a degree in marketing, as I told you, and didn't come from a legal background at all, didn't study it or anything. So when I thought about going to law school, I had to really closely figure out what is law school, what is the legal profession, what is practicing law really like. So I went and joined the paralegal program at the local community college. And then one of my assignments was to interview a lawyer. And I found that I didn't know any lawyers and couldn't find any people who knew lawyers. So I literally took a phone book, I flipped it open to lawyers, and I started cold calling. And I had to cold call over 50 lawyers before I found one person who was willing to talk to me. And so there was a lot of rejection. There was a lot of people ignoring me. And it was really, really hard just to even find out anything about the legal profession. So I realized right away that there's a lot of people who are like me that probably are interested in going to law school that really didn't have anyone that they could talk to about the process. So as finally I spoke to that one lawyer, and that lawyer actually took me under his wing and he became my mentor. And he taught me how to connect with other lawyers, where to find them. He taught me about bar associations and networking organizations and professional organizations. And he taught me how to talk the talk and walk the walk, which I think is really, really hard for a lot of first generation professionals. So eventually he introduced me to a lot of lawyers who helped me figure out which area of law I wanted to even go into. And then I applied to law school and went, and the rest is history. But during my early years of practice, I really wanted to do the same thing for other students as my mentor had done for me. So I joined many mentoring organizations trying to find a way to work with prospective law students. And all of the mentoring organizations that I joined were targeted towards just law students or young lawyers. And so I couldn't go early enough in our pipeline to really find people who were interested in law and hadn't gone to law school yet. So I decided to create that program. And that's how Leg Up Legal was born. So we created a program where we match prospective students one-on-one with an attorney so that they can just do career exploration, learn more about different practice areas, and figure out if law school is really in the cards for them. And it's been amazing. We work with universities. So we work with pre-law advisors at undergraduate universities to pick students that want to participate in the program. And then the students get the program for free through their university. And UTD is one of our partners. We're also partnered with the University of North Texas and the University of the Incarnate Word in San Antonio. And so we've started in Texas, but we plan to expand to many other schools. So.
That is amazing, Anjie. And you're just glowing and you look amazing. If I had all that going on, I would not, trust me, it would be a whole different facade that I would have going on. One quick question for you before I move next to Clio is, have you been able to measure the impact of Leg Up Legal, whereas you're trying to build this bridge, you're trying to create inclusivity and an environment where people belong? What have you been able to measure so far since founding your organization?
Yeah, we thought very closely about that. What do we want our key metrics to be? And really, first we wanted to make sure that the mentors and mentees understood how to build their relationships. So we really put a lot of thought into the curriculum on how to get these students to interact with these attorneys. And we have them meet on regular intervals. And so we're able to measure the number of meetings that they have, how long that they're meeting. They're also given a career development plan with actual objectives that they need to complete with their mentors. So we're able to measure how many objectives that they complete. I think the really important thing is just to make sure that they understand that mentoring is an organic relationship, and like all relationships, they need a little love. So if you fall off, then we have technology in place that will help remind you to continue connecting with your mentor. So our platform will detect, like, have you gone 30 days without talking to your mentor? Okay, it'll nudge you to say, hey, have you talked to your mentor this month? Why don't you check in? So I think those are the key things that we're thinking about in designing this platform to make sure that we can help keep these very human relationships going.
I love that. And I can see the impact of that being very huge, just like almost like a windfall across the world. So congratulations to you. Clio, you are a very unique, you're a unicorn. You are a cultural consultant within gaming, and I think that is so fascinating. So can you tell everybody what your role means and how you're able to embody like this inclusivity conversation into your everyday profession?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I was thinking about how do I describe what my job is, because also like no two projects I feel like I get hired onto as a cultural consultant are anything alike so much of the time. But if I were to summarize it, I would say I'm usually brought into projects to help make the product, the event, the environment, the company more inclusive, which often means, spotting points that might be causing harm or perpetuate stereotypes, as well as also spotting opportunities that could help users or attendees or what have you to feel more authentically represented and just generally safer. And while I do some kind of general consulting that encompasses like a lot of areas, sometimes I do the more focused work on, for instance, if somebody's creating a game that has to do with Korea or Korean history or Korean American community, I sometimes get brought onto those to kind of, it's a little bit like fact checking in a lot of ways, because there's some of that, but it's also making sure that, okay, like how are people represented? Is it like going off of things that people might think are like authentic and genuine, but really they're like deeply embedded in stereotypes? Because people, you don't know what you don't know. So it can be hard to catch what you're doing wrong if you're not necessarily like trained in that, or you don't have that lived experience. And it's interesting because I feel like more and more people are understanding the importance of cultural consulting, especially in creative spaces where like products are being shared with the world, narratives are being shared with the world. Games are such a collaborative effort, at least the games I usually work on, because a bunch of people are coming to sit around the table these days to sit on the Zoom call together to tell a story. And it's a lot of kind of responsibility people hold for each other. So I also try to help kind of lay that infrastructure, those guidelines for how people can best support each other in those spaces where you might be anxious about harming someone because, again, like you don't know what you don't know.
And I was going to ask you that. That's a huge responsibility and a lot of research involved. Does it ever stress you out, or do you get anxious about it? About maybe I didn't go through all the if-then statements. Maybe I didn't think, too far ahead on, do we cover every area within the game that makes everyone feel like they can be a part of it? Do you ever struggle with that?
Oh yeah. I was thinking earlier, like this morning, that like, how the Hulk is like, oh, my, like the secrets, I'm always angry for me. It's like my secrets, I'm always anxious, thinking about ways in which things could go wrong. And it is interesting to have part of my job to be being anxious about things that could go wrong. Mm-hmm. It's thinking those things out. It's thinking about worst case scenarios a lot of the time. And the other thing is actually the harder part is thinking about the things that aren't the worst case scenarios, like those little like cracks that things could slip through. Because when you have, like, for instance, with a game, you can put a game out there and put in like a lot of good guidelines for like, okay, this is how you can play somebody of a different ethnicity, or like how you can play someone who has a different background from you, and to do that respectfully. And people who go into an experience, let's say at a convention, to sit down again at a table these days to play, if they go in there with bad intentions or like wanting to just goof off and like be kind of a jerk, then they're going to do that regardless of what infrastructure you put in there. But there are also a lot of people who their intentions are really good and they really want to do a good job, but they just like, there's a certain level of just not knowing, like they think something is okay and it's maybe not okay with everybody there. It's those kind of gray areas of uncertainty where actually like a lot of harm can be done just because of lack of knowledge, like just lack of experience or exposure. And people could have no idea that what they're saying or how they're behaving is hurtful until the harm is already done. So those are the things that keep me up at night.
But even still, thank you for what you do, because it's so important. And I don't think when people are playing games or when they're, interacting with the products that you're involved in, they don't realize that that's the work that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that everybody can kind of be a part of that experience. So that's honorable. So yes, but take care of you too.
Yeah.
Okay. So Matt, we're going to move along to you, I mean, you've worked with so many different brands, businesses, organizations. I mean, it's just crazy. Let's talk a little bit about inclusivity and branding with some of your clients. And then I do want to ask you about this economic equity and what you're doing within in the community as well. So let's start with the branding conversation.
Yeah, it's branding is very important. And so for me, being a local Dallasite, I was fortunate. I was in a place of privilege to actually be very involved at a very young age in city activities. So by the time I decided to go to an undergraduate institution, and Southern Methodist University offered me an academic scholarship. I thought it was a great balance of the brand that I wanted to be as a teenager, which was to be the most influential person I could be and to heal communities. Like I always wanted to heal people. And initially, going into SME, I wanted to be a doctor, a physician, because that is, stereotypically the profession that heals. And so using that and transitioning my viewpoint to an entrepreneurial standpoint, an entrepreneurial mindset in my profession, I realized that brand of wanting to heal things and heal systems is invaluable to whatever I do in life. And so that's kind of what I use as my guiding light in all of the organizations that I'm a part of, whether it's the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce, in which, I was part of the board. I'm still a part of the board there. Or it's UNT Dallas, where it's an academic institution of higher learning in the community that I grew up in. I can literally ride my bicycle from my home, from the house I grew up in, and the university. All three of those buildings are within bike riding distance. And so it's important for my brand. And it's important for me to spread that type of systemic space so that we can influence and instruct our society, our culture to have that type of brand for upliftment.
I love that. And it's like you've taken that now. We had a prior discussion on all the things that you're doing in the community. And one of the things that came up was about these economic disparities and creating economic equity within certain projects that you're working on. So as this discussion is talking about community impact, first tell us about what you're finding as far as economic equity, and then how you're inserting yourself and your spirit of inclusivity to make sure that everyone can be a part of this conversation and at the table.
Great question. And I am in the economic development, real estate development space, and in the North Texas area and across the country. It's a very homogenous demographic who is in there. It's not inclusive at all in terms of gender, in terms of racial breakdown, in terms of power players. And I'm tasked as a consultant to be able to digest past policies that was created in this real estate space, translate how the imperfections or the flaws of those systemic things can be corrected, and discuss that with the developer in a cooperative way where we can build where residents, the developer, and the community at large can have a better future. And that process in itself is a very difficult conversation to have. And so it's very important to find clients. Similar to what Clio is saying, there are players who will intentionally not want to do the right thing. And so as people who have a frame reference of inclusivity and activism, it's really important for us to know professionally how we can discern those type of players who want to perpetuate a positive route forward. Because there are good players and there are players who want to be good. And so without having a jaded lens, it's really important to be able to bring your authentic self in a space and be in a space where your authentic self can contribute positively to society. It may not contribute to people's convenience. It'll be uncomfortable, but if there are some commonalities and common agreements that we are all going to one direction and we are all going to be uncomfortable in one way or another, those are type of conversations that help set the framework to building a potentially positive relationship.
Love that, Matt. And Michelle, as we move towards your conversation, you recently were awarded a grant. And so congratulations to you. But even within something so positive, talk to us a little bit about how you wish there was just a little bit more awareness and inclusivity, even within some of these grants and opportunities that are available for founders and entrepreneurs as well.
Yes, absolutely. So I was awarded a grant from eBay earlier this year in February, and I had applied almost as a long shot, thinking, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe it's not the type of business that's going to be recognized. And I got it, and it was just an amazing moment because here I am, a solo entrepreneur, and they're recognizing me for striving during COVID, despite the challenges that have come about. And this grant program was a partnership between eBay and Hello Alice, which is a business accelerator that focuses on minority-owned businesses. And I was surprised when I looked at the grant recipients that they were a lot of dudes that sell coins on eBay. It was very strange. And so I thought, well, maybe despite all the efforts to publicize this, people just weren't aware that this opportunity was out there for them. And so that is one of my goals while I'm celebrating the achievements of my business and my good fortune with this grant, is to get the word out there as corporations are stepping up and trying to be more inclusive and demonstrate that they're trying to be more inclusive. There's money and there's training and there's opportunities, and we can all do the job of spreading the word about that.
Were there any other hiccups or any other areas within, so that's just one, and that was recent. So just within your journey of being a founder, were there any other instances where you felt like there were holes that needed to be filled in the inclusivity discussion as well? Do you have any thing to say about that?
Yes, absolutely. One of the topics that I've been thinking about a lot is competition within the space of diverse founders and women founders in particular. And I have struggled with this my whole career. It was when I was in the workplace too. But I believe that as women, as minorities, as business owners, we should support each other. And yet that's not always the reality that's out there. And one idea that comes from my social studies and my cultural studies education is this idea of crab theory. So the idea is that if you go to the beach and you catch a bunch of crabs and you put them in a bucket, you don't even have to put a lid on that bucket, because the second one crab starts to crawl out, the other ones will start pulling it down. And I think in my journey as an entrepreneur, because I am competitive, a lot of us are, and I am ambitious, it's trying to moderate the strive of being competitive and ambitious with my values, that I want to be supportive and I want to live and work in a climate where I feel like there's enough for everybody. And I feel like we can all do our work and benefit from each other's talents and creativity. So, it's been a lot of self-work for me. It's a lot of been looking at my goals and being like, do I want to be a crab? And if I don't want to be a crab, what are things that I'm doing that are crab-like? What are things that I can do better? And then that trusting that other people in my space are also doing that work and willing to do that work.
I love that you said that, because there is enough opportunity. There is enough for everyone to eat. We don't have to look to the person to the left and the right and be jealous or be competitive. There's so many amazing opportunities. You all bring something so unique to the table, that's why I love having conversations on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because every single person is so unique that you have something within your own personal DNA that will allow you to make it. You don't have to pull somebody else down or exclude them in order to make yourself feel included. So thank you, Michelle, for bringing that up. That is a very real situation. I've experienced that myself. I don't know if Anjie or Clio have come across that as well, but I appreciate you for being real, because that's difficult. We're going to take one more question from our panelists, and then if you guys want to put questions in the comments, they will filter them to me, and then I will go ahead and ask some of our founders. So my last question for all of you guys is, as we have this discussion and we continue having this discussion, what can North Texas and the community do to make sure that it's having a diverse, not just a discussion, but like diverse sets of action to create an inclusive community for founders? What are some suggestions and maybe even some resources that you guys can throw out so that we can drive this conversation into action and move this thing forward? Michelle, I will start with you, then Anjie, Matt, then Clio.
So I want to preface by saying that I love the city and that there are so many resources available, no matter your niche or your business. So the best thing that I can advise is if you have a skill that you want to learn, which is going to be different for everybody's industry and everybody's particular business goals, just see if there's a meetup, and that's becoming increasingly possible again. See if there's a Facebook group, a way that you can find people who have that skill and are willing to share it. And as someone who has really tried to do everything myself, that's been really valuable. Like, hey, I need to learn product photography, or I need help incorporating my business. And there are so many people, there's so many good people that are willing to say, I did that, here's how.
Awesome. And one of the things that I've seen, especially for a lot of students, so UTD students, people reach out to me on LinkedIn. They send me a DM and they're very honest. Like, I want to know more about PR. I want to know more about marketing. And then we set up a conversation and I tell them what to do, who to connect to, and where those groups are. So something as simple as that can help you feel like you're a part of the community. So thanks, Michelle. Anjie, what do you have?
I think one of the really scary things for me is because I, tried going through a few different startup accelerator programs here in Dallas, and I felt a lot like it was very skewed towards people who are building high growth tech companies. And it was like very not skewed towards people who are solopreneurs or people who are trying to build lifestyle businesses or, anything that's in the range of, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million businesses. It seems like everyone was only interested in the next $1 billion unicorn. And while that's great and all, that's not really what makes up the backbone of your, of our community here in North Dallas. I think small businesses really do make up a huge part of our community. And so I think that to do a better job of, serving all of these different types of businesses, there could be more resources for people who want to just help each other out. Like Michelle said, instead of having this crab mentality, we could have, group building days where you could have entrepreneurs from all sorts of different industries and areas come help each other out. You could have people who are on hand who know about, legal services, or people who are on hand who know about web development or whatever it is. And you could just have us all help each other, because we all may have multiple skill sets, that could help other people build their businesses too. I think there just needs to be more sharing of those resources for small businesses. So that's my 2 cents.
And I totally agree with you. I had a survey sent to me and they asked me what could be done about this ecosystem. And I said that we need to start acknowledging that to be an entrepreneur is not just health and tech and raising and fundraising millions of dollars. We have Dallas is such a beautiful city of beautiful, creative people. We have our artists, our fashion designers, our entertainers, our musicians. Everybody needs to feel like they're a part of this and not feel like, do you have a venture capitalist? Do you have an angel investor? Many are bootstrapping. So that's what I feel like we can do, is to make everybody feel included, is to make sure our programming in these communities recognize a lot of those entrepreneurial folks who often get left out. So thank you for bringing that up, Anjie. Matt, what are your thoughts? I can't hear.
I have plenty of thoughts. As you could tell, I was so excited I didn't unmute my microphone. But as I listened to the previous responses, those are spot on. I want to take a lens or a viewpoint from a macroeconomic standpoint in North Texas. North Texas is an economic engine in this country. It is a corporate professional services hub, which is healthy and provides a vibrant, diverse market so that North Texas can thrive here. In that ecosystem, entrepreneurs who are very diverse, very talented, and in mass numbers in Dallas, unfortunately don't have enough economic impact in our macro ecosystem to be able to provide innovative cultural vibrancy within our people. And so I honestly think, and this is getting really heavy, really dense, but I truly believe that in order for North Texas to improve our entrepreneurial ecosystem, we must first address the past ills and the past sins that built our economy here. And it's stemmed in racism, it's stemmed in xenophobia, it's also stemmed in creating systems that prohibited people of color, women, gender, anyone who is not a white male. It really was prohibitive. And so that has to be addressed at a macro level so that we can have the innovators, the entrepreneurs, to have an equitable stake or have an equal stake with the corporate CEOs and the policymakers who are moving the economies forward. Until that happens, until we fix that equilibrium, then we're not going to really be able to build our business ecosystem to our maximum abilities.
Thanks, Matt. That was very insightful. Michelle.
Yes.
What are your closing thoughts as far? Oh, did you already gave your?
I already win. Yeah, it's Clio.
Okay, so we're gonna get into some of these questions. I just like
Michelle was ready though. Michelle said, "What? Okay, I've already answered, but I'm going to answer something else."
The red lipstick is popping. It like gravitated towards me. I'm sorry. Okay, so first question is for Clio, and let's try to keep our answers a little bit brief because we've got to keep it moving. But what advice would you give to someone wanting to get started in the writing and narrative side of games?
So everybody from games is gonna have a different story about how they got started. It's really all over the place, unlike a lot of like normal jobs, for lack of like a better word. There's no one track. So it is really difficult to say like do this, this, and this. But for me, I can say that the way I kind of got a foot in is right out of grad school. I started making a card over there. It's too far away. A card game called Battle of the Boy Bands. And I was working on that like just right out of grad school. And then I also started to look at LARP. And that was when I discovered the Golden Cobra LARP challenge, which was, you don't get paid for it. You submit a game, and my game happened to win an award that year. And it was The Long Drive Back from Busan, which is about a struggling K-pop group trying to keep their act together for like a really important performance. And it was, relatively small award. It got me like a lot of recognition that I wasn't anticipating. And that one thing, that one little like award, I really was my foot in the door for people like recognizing me as a designer and stuff. So there's some people who will kind of like poo-poo on awards, saying like, oh, you should put so much emphasis on it and stuff. A lot of those people are also saying that from a place of privilege where they haven't really had a lack of access to that kind of recognition. I am all for like, until we have a more even playing ground, I am all for like pursuing any awards you can, any kind of recognition you can, even if it's like something that seems small, it's always like really great first step.
I am a publicist and I co-sign on Clio's message. I rack awards up for my clients all the time. And I wish they would tell me not to do that. Okay. So, we lost the panelists. Okay. So question for either Anjie or Matt. What advice do you give to students who want to become founders, but just don't know where to start?
I'll take this first. So my suggestion, seriously, get a mentor. I know like it's going to seem a little self-serving as my business is all about mentorship, but it's true. You got to find people who have already walked this path before. And if that means you have to go cold call 50 people to do it, go do it. Because it'll unlock so many doors for you if you find someone who really cares about you and, will be able to bring you along in your journey. And you need that sanity check. As an entrepreneur, you're going to be making so many decisions every day and it's going to be overwhelming. And, it always helps to have a sounding board. So definitely go out and get a mentor. There's tons of different programs in the area where you can find mentorship for entrepreneurs. So, whether it's through UTD or the DEC or some other, local organization, you can definitely find access to mentors and get to know them, work on building the real relationships with that person before you just start asking questions about entrepreneurship. Get to know them as a person first. And then, once you have a relationship with them, then you can start asking about advice on building your business. But you've got to make that relationship click first.
Ditto. As a professor at UNT Dallas teaching entrepreneurship and leadership, I tell my students, most entrepreneurs have no idea what they're getting into also. And so just jump in. And my philosophy have always been ready, fire, aim. Normally people like to ready, aim, and then fire. But when I make sure I'm prepared, I already know through my principles and through my mission, I know what direction I want to go toward, and then I course correct. Because if I analyze things way too much or get the right business plan or the perfect financials and the perfect all of those things, I wouldn't start what I need to do to get that business off the ground. And so I would say just start, have a mentor, because they will help you with the aiming and guiding.
Awesome. And I'm co-signing on the Matt Houston's answer. That was perfect. Michelle, I'll leave this last one for you. Is there anything that you know now as a business owner that you wish you would have known when you started?
So I just want to follow up with Matt. I couldn't not agree more. I wish I had known. That would have given me much more confidence going in as a founder, as someone who does not have business school experience, is that the skills that you have obtained through other jobs, looks like everyone in here has changed careers at least once. Those skills follow you into the business world. And if I knew that I had all that in my backpack, the planning skills, the education, the people skills, you wouldn't think that being a chef would be anything like, running an e-commerce business, but really I find that those skills that I acquired in the kitchen, the planning, the last minute thinking, they're there with me. So just start, but never believe that you're starting from scratch, because you have all your experiences and all your ideas and creativity to guide you in a new business venture.
Thank you so much. Well, we're at time. I honestly could just continue. I know I could continue this conversation and it could just go on, because you all are just so fascinating. So thank you, Anjie. Thank you, Clio. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Matt, for being amazing panelists. Kudos to all of you guys. Thank you for whoever's out there in the virtual audience. Thank you guys for all of your questions and for tuning in. I think this has been an amazing discussion on how to get started as a founder. But even when you get in, seeking mentorship, seeking individuals and communities where it's going to take some action on your part when we talk about inclusivity, as far as being a part of this ecosystem. And then if you see things that you don't like Anjie said, when we first started, and even with Matt and some of the others, make that change. Be the change. Be a Clio. Do your research and come to the table and say, this game needs to look like this, or like Anjie, connecting people, like our legal system needs to look like X, Y, and Z, because that's what our community looks like. So don't be afraid to be the change that you want to see. I feel like I sound like Barack Obama, but that's okay. I don't have Barack Obama money, but you guys get what I'm saying with that. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to see you guys at the keynote with Punky Johnson. I am super pumped. UTD, I don't know how you did that, but that is amazing. This is going to be incredible. So thank you guys. And we have a video to close out. Please reach out to our panelists, Twitter, LinkedIn. Did I say LinkedIn? LinkedIn. IG, wherever you can find them, TikTok, Facebook, wherever, please reach out. We're here to help, and enjoy the rest of the summit. We're out of here.